Okay, here's part 2 to the introduction to the chart. Let me address the Daniel or the 1 Samuel 7:3. Vayomer Samuel al kal bet Israel la amer bekal laviv kam atam shuvim al Yahweh ha sir or samak yod resh sayara et elhi ha nakar. There's that word foreign. Me tok kam vahe ashtarot vehakinu lavev kam al Yahweh va obed hau labado veyatzal at kam meyod feles or pelash team. Okay, this is typical of every message throughout the scripture. Samuel spoke to all the house of Israel saying, if, Aleph Mem, if, that's the condition, if on the condition of, with all your heart. Well, you could say, well, okay, well, we're gonna go to the meetings, we're gonna go to the festivals, no, you got to do it with all your heart. It can't just be under pretense. That's bet tav mem is the word wholehearted. Bet tav mem lamed bet or lamed bet bet. Lamed bet is heart, lamed bet bet is also heart, but bet bet is a gateway or entrance. So you might say lavav lamed bet bet is like your deep inner heart, but it's still heart, same as lamed bet. If with all your heart, aleph tav mem, aleph tav hey is the word you, so mem is the plural, so that's y'all, you all. Shiv, return, al Yahweh, to Yahweh. Then here's this word, hey samak yod resh. Aleph tav elhi ha nakar. Well, if nakar means foreign, alien, stranger, Gentile, so people who say, well, we're the church, we're Gentile, we're not Jew, but it's perfectly okay. He's changed and there's not Jews and Gentiles, but we're Gentiles, that he's made one new man. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't understand that. If there's not Jew and Gentile, then you shouldn't claim to be a Gentile. It's Israel. He didn't do away with Israel. He'll say he'll never forget, he'll never forsake, he'll never abandon his covenant with Israel, which is Leolam, eternal. So everybody who says, oh, I'm a Gentile Christian, it's like, I'm sorry, in my understanding, that's a non-entity. That's bogus. That's a misconstruction. It's not real. It's somebody else's excuse to deceive. Maybe not you who claim to be one, but it's somebody's classification of deception. So this word samak yod resh, if you're going to return with all your heart to Yahweh, samak yod resh, it doesn't say what, it says the foreign elhi. If you want to return to Yahweh being your Elohim, me tok kam. Mem is a place or away from. Tav vav kaf means the midst, in the middle, in the center of your something is within you, or something is within your neighborhood, your nation, your culture. Something of foreignness is right in the middle of your culture. And then he says it's the Ashtaroth. Well, Ashtar or Ishtar is the goddess of love and fertility, like Venus or Aphrodite, I think, the names of the Greek and Roman. And see, but those names have worked their way into, you might say, American common language. You can mention those words And they don't necessarily invoke the deities as they were thought of back then in the days of the Canaanites. I mean, this is from Samuel. So just because the word is the same, does that mean it's the same thing? Whatever they meant isn't what I mean if I see the word or say the word. There was a movie, late 80s, I think is when it was, or something called Ishtar, Ishtar. I didn't know that had anything to do with this. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. It was set in the Middle East. But what I'm saying is that, what does he mean by that? It's the goddess of love and fertility. Well, I know people who do art and who speak about the goddess. What goddess? There was a friend who I hadn't seen him for a few years, and I met him a few years later, and he was talking about this church he was going to, whatever one it was. They were saying that Elohim, when he had made the beginnings of the planet, the world, the universe, back in, I think it was Proverbs 8 or 12. Anyway, he had invented a consort, a girlfriend, who was wisdom, that he could consort with, that he just, man, I'm gonna invent this female figure of love and fertility who would be wisdom that he could hang around with. And it's like, what? Chakma in Hebrew, Sophia in Greek, philosophia, the love of wisdom, is philosophy. And it's like, I'd never heard of such a thing. Oh, yes, this is like now mainstream doctrine. This is what we believe because it's the truth. And anybody who doesn't acknowledge this just doesn't have a clue as what's going on. And it's like, for it to say that Yahweh consorted with wisdom, I see other places where it says that Elohim so loved this concept of wisdom, the concept, let's call it a metaphorical woman, but the concept of wisdom, that he just built the whole universe to the detail, fractally minimal maximum expression, all based on wisdom. So what I think of with that is that, say, all the ins and outs, the this and that's, the mechanics, the every little design of interface and multi-dimension, go in this dimension and come out some other dimension, and it's all tied together. And boy, if we knew the details of what he made, it would be astounding upon astounding. Astounding to the factor of astounding, not just squared or cubed, but wow. Because that's the expression of that wisdom. The wisdom is figuring, calculating, designing, that everything is linked together, tied together. And because of that, I could boil it down to say, in the practical experiential realm for Adam, is that everything you say, everything you do, everything you think, everything you harbor in your heart emanates a projection of energy, of vibration, of quantum entanglement. So people say, well, we're all one. If you start off with a single word, a single vocalization of Yahuwah, and everything gets manifest, well, you pull it on back to that, and yeah, we're all one. But people can diverge and break off and separate. I saw this thing that came up on the internet. If you know about Gregorian chants, in the Middle Ages, monks, whether they're Orthodox or Catholic or whoever, they'd hang out in these cathedrals, which had incredible acoustics, and then they'd sing notes. Well, where they're probably singing Latin. They don't have to sing Latin. They could sing something else. But typically, if it was Latin, they're singing words. And if their words had nothing to do with it, the notes certainly did. The notes were very specific and they had an effect. Well, words have effect too. So if they're singing Latin and that's supposed to be a purer statement than something in English or German or some other language, then that is a compound effect, the note, the effect of the note and the effect of the Latin words. But in a cathedral, it's not just, well, yeah, it sounds nice because things have a certain echoing resonance because of the architecture, but then the whole study of the bring it to invoke the name Tartarian again. The people that look at the cathedrals and say those were not built to worship God as churches. They became that later, but they were built as healing chambers of reconstitution, regenerating, you might say, a true calibration of one's being, resonating, cells vibrating right where they're supposed to be. Healing therapy centers, you might say. And then for the Gregorian monks to be chanting those notes, and especially if they're in the solfeggio tones, well, now that's just going to make everything align with the, you might say, the primal or the real frequency of the whole universe, the way it was supposed to be. So this little clip title of the picture that came up said, were they worshiping God or were they aligning with the frequency of the universe? Well, what's the difference? Someone could define those two as two. I'm either worshiping God or I'm aligning with the frequency of the universe. Or you could say, that is worshiping God. Which God? Oh no. Well, it's like, wait a minute. What does it mean to worship Yahuwah? Well, I'm just expressing the affection that's in my heart. Well, that might be one way. But if I had to define worship, one, the primary word for worship is obed, ayin bet dalet. Ayin bet is the word for thick, like a thick rope or a thick cloud. And bet dalet means unique or separated or set apart, to be exclusively thick and set apart. It's where we get the word Obadiah, Obed, ayin bet dalet, or obedience. It also means worship. It also means to work and to tan hides. It's a lot of strenuous labor to tan a hide. Stretch out the big, heavy hide. In picture like Native Americans pulling out a buffalo hide. Man, that thing is 100 pounds or more, and you got to stretch it and stake it and wet it and scrape it and on and on and on. It's a lot of work. The point is, that's by definition the word obed. Yeah, but if I just get ethereal and just blank everything out and just zone out and go into some sort of, to use another word, Zen state of ethereal nothingness and float, that's worship. Well, is sweating profusely and working like crazy at a task in obedience to Elohim, is that a better worship, or is that a more true definition of worship than some ethereal nirvanic state, to use another word of invoking some other non-Christian religious meaning? Nirvana, it's like, what is nirvana? What is the Elysian fields? What is this other world, heavenly? It's like, where do I find the words to give description? Well, let's look at the Hebrew. You can't separate, do what he said. That's worship. Well, then what's this ethereal thing? Is it borrowed from another culture? Is that worship? Singing beautiful songs? Well, David sang songs. It maybe even got ethereal. Well, what it says here with Samuel is this word Samak Yod Resh. It means visit, tour, scout, spy, reconnoiter. Well, that's a synonym with Tav Resh, which is explore. But it also means thorn, pot, and kettle in boat. How can the same word mean thorn, pot, kettle, and boat? What do you do with that? Well, what's a boat? Well, a boat's floating in the water, like a kettle might float in the water, but what's that got to do with a thorn? Well, that's an anchor. It's going to move around unless it's got an anchor holding it in. I mean, okay, well, I can picture that. But it also, Samak Vav Resh, see, now you changed the yod, putting in Vav, it means turn away, remove. It's the word leaven, or original character. But see, Samak Yod Resh can also mean refuse, trash, or garbage, or that which is piled up and then taken to the dump and removed. Stack up for the dump run. Well, he says do that with whatever is a foreign in your midst, having to do with the goddess of love and fertility. Well, the only way to do that is to knocker nun kaf resh, like this previous word mem kav resh. Just like Joseph was, here's one of the 12 brothers grabbed, distinguished as otherwise, and ejected, thrown into the pit and gotten rid of. We are supposed to do that with anything that's related to the goddess of fertility and love in comparison to Yahuwah. And then the alternative is what we're supposed to do is Hakino. Hey, Kaf Yod Nun Vav. Well, the word Kaf Nun is can, which is yes, so, truly thus. Canon, aim, direct, hold it down so it doesn't move, provide an easel, give it a surname, or look up Kaf Nun and Kaf Nun Nun and Kaf Nun Vav Nun. Perfectly aimed on target with all your heart to Yahweh, or belonging to your heart. Lamed bet bet, Kaf Mem, to Yahweh, and Obed, serve, work, obey, worship. Lamed bet Dalet. Well, bet Dalet, like it wasn't bad that Adam, wasn't good that Adam was bad. Adam was bet Dalet. Unique, alone, different than all the other animals. He was bet Dalet. Like Aleph bet Dalet, bet Dalet. Abad, Abaddon's bolero. So Abaddon is the you might say the keeper of the grave of hell. I'm just saying it's like what's bad? What's bad? What's bad? As you contemplate the words for yourself, making connections with English, with other languages, Greek or Latin, make exclusive, like Adam was different than all the other animals, like Joseph was put in a different capacity than all of his other brothers. Hebrew is in a different capacity of language than all the other languages. You've got to do that with the aiming and directing your heart at Yahuwah. And here, Aleph Lamed, it means to, whereas up there in Genesis 45, Aleph Lamed meant away from. So if you're looking both, it looks like, is it to or is it away from? Well, you have to consider both. In other words, if you're going to categorize and get rid of one, you got to have the full category so that you know what the distinction is that makes it different. You got to wrap your mind around that whole thing so that you know exactly what you're doing for yourself. Don't trust the preacher, the professor, the prophet, the guy who's coming and talking to you. Don't trust me. And worship, serve Obed only, and Yod Zadi Lamed. Well, Zadi Lamed is bel, to cover over, to shade, put something in the oven. Zadi Lamed Lamed, Bet Zadi Lamed Lamed is Betzalel, the guy who built articles of the Mishkan. It has to do with sound and sonic. The next word is Aleph Tav Kaf Mem, you all, me Yod, from the hand of the, doesn't say of the, but Pei Lamed Shin Tav Yod Mem, Philistine. Well, the word Philistine, you look at Pei Lamed Shin in the dictionary, it means invade, intrude, tunnel, and dig into. Now, I'm not excusing and I'm not blaming anything, but if you look at a matter of what's been going on in recent year two of history, the Palestinians of Gaza were caught tunneling under into the land of Israel. And in those tunnels, bringing all kinds of weaponry so that they could pop open and invade and attack the kibbutzes. And again, I'm not saying who's right or wrong. I don't know enough about the details. I'm just observing the action is exactly the meaning of the word Philistine. And the word Palestine or Palestinians is the exact same word transliterated into the Roman Latin from the Hebrew. These guys are the invaders that'll just keep sneaking their way in until they just get in from the inside out. That's what the name means. That's the word. So what it says here, 1 Samuel 7:3, is that Samuel was saying to Israel, listen, when there's trouble, because you guys turned away from Elohim, turned away from Yahweh and his Torah, and the trouble manifest by the Philistines or the other nations around you, lording over you, crushing you, pounding you, whenever they would plant something and plant their seeds, dig furrows, the other nations would come and ride their horses through and just tear the whole place apart. In the days of Gideon, book of Judges, just when it was time to harvest, they'd go out there, they'd been tending it, and just as it was the day of harvest, these other guys would come in and just steal it all. It's like, you guys do all the work and we'll take it. And the people of Israel were going like, gosh, where's Yahweh? Well, where was he when you turned away from him? If you want Yahuwah to relieve you from the hand, Meyod Pelash Tayama, the Philistines, get rid of Ashereth, the Philistines' deity of love and fertility. Return to Yahweh with all your heart. Jeremiah 23:15. Now you look at Jeremiah 23, and that's a pretty heavy chapter. I would recommend people read that. There's these prophets, Israeli prophets, which were saying stuff to people that just isn't true. But Yahweh didn't tell those guys to shut up. Lakan ka'amer Yahweh Zavot al ha-nevaim hineni ma akil otam la'ana veha shakatim mirash ki me'at nevai Yerushalayim yitzeha chanafa lakal haaretz. Verily so declares Yahweh's vote concerning the prophets, here I am. Oh, okay. So he's talking about in Jeremiah 23, the first 15 verses, a situation where people are being lied to and deceived and misled. These prophets, supposedly of Yahweh, are misleading his people. Now, I could say, well, presently, from my personal understanding, whether right or wrong, but my personal regard in America in 2025, let's just say culture, philosophy, so-called wisdom and or church and or politics, science is misleading everybody, completely convoluted. Nobody knows what the heck is going on. The other day, somebody said, hey, there's this thing that they've noticed coming into our part of the solar system, coming into our neighborhood, called 3I Atlas. It's like a comet, but it's not a comet. It's moving faster than anything they know of ever moves in outer space. Oh, that's scary. And don't know how to classify it. And it's brighter than anything else, but it's not reflecting light of the sun. It's emanating its own light. And then somebody else says, and it looks like a spaceship. It looks like a manufactured craft of some kind, and it has hostile intent. It's like, how do they know that? How do they know that? What do you mean it looks like it has hostile intent and it's a spaceship? Can you see it? No, it's hiding behind the sun. It's like, wait a minute. And I mentioned to my friend that's like, hey, you hear about that? And he says, it doesn't exist. It's like, what do you mean it doesn't exist? These astronomers are telling us that it exists. And he says, no, it's all a fake. NASA's lying to us. And there is no such thing called 3I Atlas. And it's like, what? Who you listening to? Is it there or is it not there? It's like, I don't know. I don't have a telescope to look at it. I just don't know. fact, for the record, I don't know whether the world is flat or globe. I've heard stories, I've heard about experiments, but I haven't gone out and tested it and seen one way or the other. I have no idea. What year is this? They tell us it's 2025, but maybe it's not. I mean, depending on where you're counting, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But behold, here I am. Oh, here, Yahweh says something. Let me see if I can put my mind onto that. Mem, Ayin Kaf Yod Lamed. Well, Mem Aleph Kaf Yod Lamed. Aleph Kaf Lamed means to eat or devour. So if Aleph Kaf Yod Lamed, see, they stuck the Yod in between the Kaf and the Lamed, but the Mem prefix means away from eating, or the one who does the eating, or I'm going to cause this to happen, eating. Eating what? Something's going to get devoured. The next word, Aleph, Vav, Tav, Mem. Well, Aleph, Vav, Tav, I mentioned that before. That means oath, sign, symbol, signal, stipulation, to swear an oath, like a logo or the letter of the alphabet. So it's like a symbol of an oath, an agreement. That's like a secret organization, or not even secret. It just means this symbol represented of the ideology, the philosophy, the understanding of this whole group, whether it's political or religious or scientific or whatever it is, Knights Templar or something like that. I mean, whatever it is, these prophets have this position that represents what they think and how it all works. And whoever eats, well, that's like Yeshua saying, eat my flesh and drink my blood, which is to say, you're part of me. You're doing this. You're right here with me. You're achad with me. Just like Passover, eat this meal, and together, there's something about eating, which is this togetherness. You eat with who you're together. That's why Jews, Orthodox Jews, will not eat with Gentiles. Why? Because the Gentiles are heretics, liars, unbelievers. You can't eat with them. It's against the law. That's why, against God's law, against the Jews' law. That's why when Peter had that vision where this sheet came down and all these animals, and he heard this voice, arise, Peter, kill and eat. And he says, not so, I'm not going to eat that. What I have made or called clean, don't you call unclean. And then 3 Gentiles are knocking at the door, and he's like, wow, I'm supposed to go eat with you guys? What? You're not supposed to do that. I can't participate. And then if you read in Chronicles, whenever a good, faithful king made an alliance with an unfaithful king, whether it was Syrian or whether it was with northern nation of Israel, they got in really big trouble. Yahuwah basically said, how dare you make an alliance with the infidel? Brought a curse upon themselves. But is that what this is talking about? The next word, lamed, ayin nun hey. See, ayin nun hey, that's that word for humble. It's also the word used in Isaiah 58, meaning concern, burden, attending to, humbled by, sing, respond, afflicted. It's belonging to that stuff which is your concern. The next word, vav he shin kuf tav yod mem. Well, he shin kuf is irrigation or watering. Shin kuf tav is a drinking trough. But see, tav is a suffix, he is a prefix. Shuk, shin kuf. Nun shin kuf is kiss, bring into contact, launch a ship, and the marketplace is called the shuk, shin kuf kuf, to desire. Shin could be the prefix, that which belongs to, and kuf is hope. So you go to the market, oh, I hope I can find this one product. And look, oh, there it is. I've been looking for it. And it's noisy, and it has to do with the leg of walking around. And see, if you know the meanings of the letters, irrigation, watering. But then there's this next phrase, the word mem yod hyphen resh aleph shin. Mem yod is whoever. Resh aleph shin is venom, like snake venom, spider venom, but it's also head, chief, top, and summit, beginning, basis, and foundation. does that mean? Yahweh says, regarding those prophets which are leading all my people astray, here I am. Whoever eats their oath, their symbolism, making it their concern, drinking, eating and drinking, mirash. Is that to say it's venom? Or that to say whoever top or basis? Is that to say whether you're one of the leaders or you're one of the peasants? But either way, you look at this, he's saying if you align with their ideology, if you think like they think, if you eat like they eat, drink like they drink, if you are burdened by the stuff that they impose as a burden, find important the things they find important. Kaf Yod is the next word. So thus, Mem Aleph Tav. Well, Mem Tav is dead. But this is from Aleph Tav, or at the place of Aleph Tav, or away from Aleph Tav. So what if it's proceeding from that place that he just described, or if it's away from Yahuwah's Aleph Tav? Now we're saying all that stuff these prophets are about, you have to compare it to what Yahweh's about. So that means you have to, like we were talking about before, you have to know, well, who is Yahweh and what's his stuff, so that you can bet Dalet, isolate and distinguish the stuff that's of the Ashtaroth, the fertility goddess, or the stuff of these false prophets. How do you know what the distinction is? Who is Yahuwah and who is not Yahuwah? And what if they use the same name? Who's the Mashiach and the non-Mashiach? Who's the fake Ruach and the true Ruach? Ki me'et neviah. Well, now see, this is Nun Bet Yod Aleph Yod. Nun Bet Aleph Yod Mem is prophets. This is my prophet, or this is, look at the dictionary, it means prophetic. Jerusalem. Export, published, Yod Zadi Aleph Hey. Zadi Aleph is to go out, blossom. Chet Nun Pei Hey. Well, Chet Nun Pei, you look in the dictionary, it means profane, polluted, hypocrisy, godless, flattery, and impiety. Well, does it say it didn't say from Jerusalem. It says Jerusalem, export, profane, polluted, hypocrisy, godless, flattery, and impiety unto all the earth. So I have to go back and stare at this and say, well, wait a second. If it's different than Aleph Tav, then there's a prophecy. Yahweh saying, here I am. You better know me, because if you don't know me, you're going to be bamboozled, bewildered, bewitched, befuddled. You'll be sucked in, and you won't know the difference. Looks good, sounds good, tickles the ears, and it seems reasonable, logical, and they sing wonderful songs. But somehow, well, look at the meaning of the word Jerusalem. Yod, Resh, Vav, Shin, Lamed, Mem. Yod Resh Aleph means to fear or to have a reverence for. Resh Aleph Hey is to put on exhibition, but this is Yod Resh Vav Shin. Resh Vav Shin, like Resh Aleph Shin, can mean poison, venom. Shin Lamed Mem, like the word shalom, means recompense or payment. Lamed Mem, the suffix, in them. He will poison them as their payment. Whoever goes forth, even if it's the pretense of going forth from Jerusalem, to pollute the entire earth with profane, polluted, hypocrisy, godless, flattery, sounding good, impiety, not pious, not Dalet Tov, right, pious, orthodox, religiously correct, away from Aleph Tav. So there's either Aleph Tav or Mem Aleph Tav away from Aleph Tav. How do you know the difference? So if I'm going to pull all this together, this is what I see this saying. Falsehood will spawn more falsehood. like a black hole in outer space, pulling in all within its realm of influence, just grabbing and pulling everything it can. Only the truth of Yahuwah is protective armor against that draw of the falsehood. The voice of the false prophet will be increased, not forced to diminish. Yahweh's not going to tell him to shut up. He's going to tell us to listen to him. Verily, verily, so declares Yahweh's avot concerning the prophets, their prophecies. Behold, here I am. Here is my connection with those matters. Whoever eats with them, joins into agreement, signs in with their symbolism, Aleph Vav Tav, so as to make it one's own personal position of regard, concern, consciousness. That's the Ayin Nun Hey. To yearn for, hope for, saturated with, be inundated by, drink from. That's Shin Kuv Hey. Whoever makes that reality their what it is, their foundation, their summit, the Mirash. From that very place, that message of the false prophets will flow the poison that pollutes the godless, exported to the entire earth. One's God becomes their God and will deal with them accordingly. Consuming falsehood will eat you, devour your life. Consuming the basar, the flesh of Yahusha, will bet resh, purify and cleanse you, and you reward you with shalom, full goodness. The attributes of the false become their reality unto corruption, which yields destruction. If you keep eating what he said not to eat, you will be destroyed. If you keep doing what Yahweh said not to do, that is not of him, you'll disintegrate into corruption. If Yahuwah is scorned, disregarded, striven against, unheeded, the discrepancy between him and the alien figment of imagination is turned into the manifestation of aggression, wrath, evil, annihilation, the ravaging of life and land. Say that again. The discrepancy between the real Yahweh and whatever nakar, alien figment of imagination, whatever you choose to believe versus what the reality of who is Yahuwah really. The difference between that is what destroys you and the land. Whatever would have been the expression of goodness, blessing, health, wealth, sanity is converted, convulsed, inverted into the opposite and increasingly compounded. Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28 expressing that. The only solution to correcting the mayhem is to shuv to the Torah of Yahweh in its primal first appearance, that word Rashon, large-headed, great beginning, ancient, Kuf Dalet Mem, as expressed to our forefathers, wholeheartedly, Batam Lavav, all one's nefesh, madly, Mem Aleph Dalet, return, Shin Bet Tov, as in Deuteronomy 30, Shabbat or Shevat, is the one continual command given to generate the turnaround. So the Moed, just my perspective on what this is all saying, the Moedim, the Shabbaton, as Shabbat Shabbaton, Sabbath of Sabbaths, as mentioned in Leviticus 23, are picture life rafts to gravitate to. When I say gravitate to, there's the pretense that of physics and NASA that there's this thing called gravity, which pulls things towards it. Whether or not it exists depends on the physics you believe. Imagine that there's these Sabbath days, Shabbaton, Moedim, that pull everything to them that we can cling to as a token of holy ground, like a life raft, a token of holy ground. Keeping the festivals and Sabbath days is not going to save you. they're tokens of holy ground in that we were called to gather at a particular time to be set apart from all other concerns, cares, obligations, and interests. Yahuwah said, gather together, turn your back on your job, turn your back on your culture, turn your back on your distractions, and take these Moedim, to gather together and Ayin Nun Hey, answer, reply, respond, make it your concern, attend to his stuff, his words, because Kufresh Aleph is to call and to assemble, but it's also to learn how to read. So the looking at his words, not you have to spend 24 hours just staring into his words, but the concept of how do you worship him? How do you think about how do you regard his face? It's in his words, I'll tell you that, besides worship, besides prayer, besides pondering and just being and feeling his presence, and go ahead and do that too. In order to take time out to focus, realign, convene, strategize, balance, to nurture the relationship with Elohim and with each other, he gave us the Moedim, like this light life raft, the pretense of holy ground. But I'm not saying, yo, keep the Sabbath day, keep the festivals, and now you're saying, I'm not saying that. Just saying that if you are his people, you will value, recognize, treasure those things he gave us, which are the Moedim, including the Sabbath day. Thus, then, any teacher or authority figure to deny or contradict the Moedim, to mandate them as off limits, that's none of ours, that's not our covenant. I've heard those words said regarding the Christian concept. The primary provision Yahweh instituted to accommodate saving, why would they do that? Voice of the enemy. Thank you, Moshe. So Jeroboam and the king of Israel, 1 Kings 12, verses 27 to 33, he even said, I know I'm supposed to, even though he's now king of Israel, and Yahuwah said he's going to give him that, and that he would prolong his kingdom if he walked in his ways. He said, if I allow my people to go to Jerusalem, like the command was that they're supposed to, I'm going to lose the kingdom. A guy named Rehoboam, Solomon's son, was the king over Judah, who hated Jeroboam, who was like this rebel leader of the northern kingdom, the northern 10 tribes. And Yahweh said, teach my people to walk in my ways. And Jeroboam said, well, yes, Yahuwah did give me this kingdom. I had no right or opportunity to grab it on my own, but he made that possible. But man, if I let my people go back to Jerusalem, I'm going to lose it. So he instituted new festivals like Christmas and Easter at a place called Dan in Beth El. And he set up golden calves of idols of sacrifice, and he changed the dates, and he said, worship God this way. Don't go back to Jerusalem. Don't go back to the other guys, your kinsmen. And Yahweh said, that's it, man. You just went totally off the rails. In Psalm 91, as we talked a couple of weeks ago, Yahuwah says, the last verse, because he knows my name, I'll show him my salvation. Because he Yada's Shemi, because he Yada has this personal experience with Shem, my Shem, name, fame, renown, reputation, all my concerns, my place, who I am and where I'm at. Because of that, not just because he believes or loves me or sings songs to me or prays to me or hopes for me. Because he knows my Shem, I'll show him my salvation. That's what was written in the last verse of Psalms 91. So Yahuwah is a very specific ruach, mind, heart, character. Aleph Pei Yod, character, also nose. Yahuwah Zavot, the Elohim of Israel, is a very specific nose. You can have the same face, put a different nose, and it's not him. He wants to be acknowledged, recognized, discerned as being uniquely different than any other him. So if you say, oh, I believe in the creator of the universe, I believe in the triune God, I believe in the Father of Jesus Christ, I believe, and it's like, you can use all those words, but if it's not what Yahuwah described of himself, It's not him. It's an Elohim Achrim. He said he only revealed himself in totality, Tav Mem, perfect, to Israel. Not just the Jews, the 12 tribes of Israel, Moshe, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. If you look through all these various occasions, as I mentioned, the tribes of Israel strayed, varied, rebelled, were apathetic to, or went gleefully towards Elohim Achrim, the gods of the, in particular, the Assyrians and the Egyptians, or we might say the Romans and the Greeks, or the Chinese and the Mayans or Aztecs, African deities. Soon as his people did that, Yahuwah became agitated and withdrew from being among his people, Tav Vav Kaf, in your midst, Kufresh Bet, drawing near to be with from the interior. He removed what he had gave to his people, Jeremiah 4. And there's other places. He said, I gave you Ezekiel 16, I gave you all this, but I'm going to tear it apart and I'll call in the wolves to destroy, call in the enemy to run over your crops like he did with Moab. He called in the enemies to give away his people, the land, and all the accumulated wealth. As the people were prone to doing evil, evil came upon them. This is your God? Okay, your God will devour you. If it's not Yahweh, whatever God you have will be what destroys you. And Yahweh himself will pour out his vengeance upon you, his people. That's what he said. Leviticus 26, as I read last week. The way of Yahweh became lost, foreign, and incomprehensible. In 2 Chronicles 7:22, it talks about that if we fall away and we don't have even any recollection of how in the world to get back. Yahuwah said he'd let himself be found if we search for him with all our hearts. So that was manifested, 2 Chronicles 36, when Hezekiah said, we got to do Pesach. And Yahweh responded. Josiah, 2 Chronicles 35, we got to do Pesach, just like he said, and let's throw everything into it, all our whole heart. And the king even paid for everybody's food. Yahweh responded. Solomon pouring out that great prayer, 2 Chronicles 6 and 7, he said, if, and he gave 5 or 6 different conditions. If somebody is confronted in a legal squabble, may you return the evil upon the guy's head doing evil and return the righteousness upon the head of the guy doing righteousness. Hey, that's the way Mishpat works. If the whole country did something stupid and we got taken over by our enemies and thrown into slavery, when we turn to you with all of our hearts, make our enemies be merciful to us. Okay, that was the prayer. Yahweh heard and responded. If you go to 2 Chronicles 20:21, the guy named Jehoshaphat was encountering this huge battle. He put singers going forth saying, Hodu la yuak ki tov ki leolam chazdo. The same thing Solomon was saying when he inaugurated the temple. By the time they got to the battlefield, the other 3 nations had fought amongst themselves and killed all of each other. There wasn't even any battle to have. Yahweh gave us the means to come back to him. Walk in his ways, call upon his name, trust him, say and mean the words from the inside heart, Lavav, Hodu la Yahuwah ki tov, ki leolam chazdo. Give thanks to Yahweh because tov. Doesn't say he is good. It says tov, good, welfare, benefit, life, health, wealth, sanity. Give thanks to Yahweh for, because, when, although, if, meaning of the word kaf yod, he is the source responsible for our having any of that. Ki leolam, for eternity, Leolam is beyond the horizon, beyond calculation, beyond consideration. His tender loving kindness, his merciful compassion, no matter what we did, he will remove that, bring us back, fix that for good. But we got to get rid of the Ashtoreth. We got to get rid of the fertility goddess and the Baals, the lords, the gods, the customs of the land, the people, the other people who are heathen, infidel, pagan, idolaters who don't know Yahuwah. We should have zero alliance with them. Don't even eat with them. Yeah, but Peter was told to go eat with them. Was he told to go eat with the infidels, or did they already have a heart, which is why they came to Peter? Did they already have a heart for Yahuwah? Subject of consideration. Numerous times he said, search for me with all your heart, and I'll let myself be found of you. How do you search for him? Okay, go, start searching. Up in the tree, in the sky, let's look in the ocean. Where do you go to search for him? In that movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Germans had, World War II era, had got the Ark of the Covenant. And they had it and they took it into some cave, and it's like, okay, what do you do? Well, you look inside. That's what you do. Hey, who's in there? God in a box? I mean, what do you think you're going to find? Well, this is the ultimate treasure box. What does the ultimate treasure look like? And it was a great cinematographic moment. These guys open up the lid and their face melts like they're made out of a candle wax. It was like, well, what were you thinking? What should happen to him? I mean, that was just like a cinema moment. Yeah, okay, but imagine if that was a real event. You got the Ark of the Covenant, now open it up, see who's inside. Well, what's supposed to be inside is the Ten Commandments written on tables of stone, and Aaron's rod that budded, and some manna. That's it. But if you read in, I think it's in Chronicles or Kings, when they brought it back in, it says the only thing left in there was the Ten Commandments, not even Aaron's rod that budded or the manna, whatever. I don't know who opened it up and got rid of those things, but anyway, what's even in there? It's not about what's in there. But if you could find the Ark of the Covenant and there was some treasure in there, well, it must be the real Yahweh. Maybe that's what you'd find if you could see God in a box, or if you could imagine like when the Da Vinci Code movie was happening in 2006, and when that movie by the book Dan Brown, boy, if we could just find the Holy Grail. Now imagine if somebody said, hey, here's the Holy Grail. Pour something in it. Pour water, pour orange juice, pour some wine. Does the wine have to be red or white? Does it have to be from the land of it? What are you going to drink out of that Holy Grail? Do you just hold it? Just have it on my shelf. Just, hey, look, I got the Holy Grail. I found it. What do you think you're going to get? And suppose there was the right thing put in it and you did take a sip. What would be the upshot benefit of anything you might personally gain from taking a drink from that Holy Grail? Well, life, health, wealth, sanity, a lot of money. Everybody loves you. Nobody hates you. Why'd I eat them worms? You know that song as kids? It's like, that's what Yahweh promised if we'd walk in his ways. And if you did open up the Ark of the Covenant and you see in there the 10 Commandments, do what he said. We don't need to find the Ark to do what he said. We don't need to open it up. We don't need to drink from the Holy Grail. Listen to what Yeshua said. He said, follow me. I'm walking the right way. I'm straightening it out for you. Just do what I said. I'm only saying what I hear my Father saying. Just do what I said. And it's like, yeah, but it's also complicated. There's 613 laws, if not 1,200 or 1,300. In the New Testament, I heard somebody say, besides all those 613 in the Old Testament, and nobody knows when a day starts or the week starts, and it's also confusing. Hey, what do you know? Mishkan pattern right here. Choose life. I put before you life and death. Choose life. learn the instructions. Learn it, teach it, repeat. What did he say? This is what he said. Yeah, but how do you do it? Take it to heart and then just do what he said. Yeah, but what if we got the wrong calendar? Well, for right now, as far as I can see, just keep a calendar. Do what he said. And have mercy on one another and talk to him and each other in fellowship and have the hope set before you that he's going to do exactly what he said. So it goes back to learn what he said. And if you can't quite get the truth in English, go ahead and learn Greek or Latin if you want. I'm suggesting you learn Hebrew because it's very easy and it's all right there. Well, that's the Mishkan pattern. Choose life, learn his instructions, and do what he said from the heart. But one of the things he said is seek his face. How do you seek his face? Learning his words and reading his words. See, as you study this alphabet, that is seeking his face. The interesting play on words is face is Pe Nun Yod or Pe Nun Yod Mem, Panim, or Lifnei is Lamed Pe Nun Yod. Pe Nun Yod then is face, but his presence, countenance, the position of his attention. What is he looking at? It's to be in front of somebody. But Pe is a mouth. Nun is this thing that jumps out, like Nun jumps out of Mem, like a fish jumps out of water, a baby jumps out of a womb when it's born. And Yod is personal possession. So Panay is my stuff coming out of my mouth. That's the word face. And when he says, seek my face, look in the things I said for who I am, what character, spirit, mind, heart is behind the words. So if somebody says, nah, he did away with all that, why would he do away with something which is perfect, which is forever? That doesn't make any sense. That sounds like a scam to me. In fact, our enemies are going to try to deceive us. And if they were going to deceive us, what tactics do you think they would use? Don't worry about what he said. He changed what he said. Whatever he said isn't going to do you any good. He doesn't want you to do what he said. He has something better, which is not doing what he said, but it's doing something different that he said. Those are all words from the enemy. Pretty blatantly clear. Those are words of an enemy. If I take as a given premise that Yahuwah told his people the real truth from the get-go, from the Rashon, the great beginning, and he's not going to change what he said. He'll explain what he said. He'll change circumstances of history, like he said, because you rebelled and you wandered around, you sent your spies out to wander the land for 40 days, then you're going to wander in the desert for 40 years. And just what you expected me to do, kept telling each other what I do. I'm going to kill you in the desert. Okay, for 40 years, I'll kill you in the desert, and your children will come into the land. And when the people listened to his voice, he said, even though I had determined a pestilence, a plague, a destruction upon you, when you turn to me, I will relent from that. If you turn to me with all your heart, if you seek my face. So the best I can see is that if we study his language like we're seeking his face, we're trying to understand what did he say to do so that we can do it with a pure, full, whole heart, as if we're worshiping him in obedience. He's told us numerous times, every time, that's what he responds to. So I might be able to get him to respond if I sit in a congregation where they're singing beautiful songs, expressing our attitudes and even quoting Bible verses back to him. And I'm not diminishing that or negating it, but I'm saying even at that highest form of that definition of worship, which I've experienced in churches in the past, that doesn't equate to the same thing as reading his word and then trying to do it because that's what he said he wanted us to do. So there's a difference between saying, and I say this because, and I'm not putting it down, I'm just giving definition, that one of the lyrics of one of the songs we used to sing is, "This is your worship. I hope you're pleased. I hope you enjoy this because this is your worship." And then I, at one point, kind of facetiously saying, "You didn't tell us to do this. You told us to do what you said, but we're not going to do that. We're going to give you this. And this is all we're going to give you. So you better like it. Just so you know, you better take this as your worship because you're not getting any other worship. You said, be at task, doing what you said obediently. We're not going to do that. Just so you know." And it's like, yeah. Is that really what we're saying? Well, inspect your heart. He's going to plumb the depths of a man's heart. As a matter of fact, there's this thing. It's like, what? King Hezekiah, he was nearing death, and he moaned and complained and said, "Please, can I have some more time?" And he said, "Okay, I'll give you some more time, 15 more years." So he recovered from this ailment. And but then Yahweh says he left him to see what he would do, to see what was in his heart. It's like, what? Now, in that one phrase, I think it was in Chronicles, it doesn't really explain how and why that happened. But what does that mean? Nun Samik is the word that means to test, to try, to experiment. It's also empirical, which means personal experience. Nun Samik, to lift up, to be raised up, banner, the two part of the eriktology logo, the Nun Samik. Would Yahweh do that? Remember what happened to Job? I've heard people say, yeah, the devil sit there and says, yeah, the only reason Job likes you is because you give him a bunch of stuff, man. You take that away and he'll spit in your face. And God says, no, he won't. Yes, he will. It wasn't this argument between the devil and God. Gosh. What it says is that all the different angels, servants of Elohim, presented themselves before him one day saying, hey, you sent me on this mission. This is what I've been doing here. I'm giving you a debriefing. This is what I've done and how it's going. He says, okay, thank you. And they all reported in. And then one more came in, the guy whose name was the Wanderer. And Elohim says to him, hey, Mr. Wanderer, what job have you been doing? And he says, yes, sir, I've been wandering just like I was told to do. And then Yahweh says to him, have you encountered Job? And he says, I can't get to Job. There's a hedge around him. And Yahweh said, come on. There's no hedge around him. Kick him around. Don't kill him. What? Yeah, that's right. Go get him. That was Yahweh's idea. Now, come on. See, that's not the way we're told the story. Why would Yahweh say that? To test what was in Job's heart? To plumb the depths of his being? Can we look at anything that happens to us at any moment and say, this is Yahuwah plumbing the depth of my identity, my character? Who am I? What am I going to say? What am I going to do? Am I going to turn on him? Am I going to get a bad attitude? Or am I going to say thank you? I'm going to say Hodu la Yoah ki tov, ki le olam chazdo. And somehow I need to find to rejoice and realize that for everything Yahweh does, he pays. He repays. He recompenses. A few weeks ago, I said, this great thing is, even if something terrible is happening, a horrific expense of pain or mental torment or economics or legal or whatever you might want to call it, like what's happening to my wife. If Yahweh recompenses, if he pays, then he'll pay. He'll make it worth your while. It's like nothing can be made worthwhile regarding this affliction. No, he'll make it worth your while. That's what he said. That's what he said. And so whether we believe it's in this world or in the realm to come, Yahuwah is faithful. Psalm 100. Yahweh is faithful. He'll do what he said. What did he say? He said that it'll make it worth it if we, he'll always make everything worth it if we just do what he said. What did he say? Or you're going to get different translations, but I'm just saying, you figure out what these letters mean. That's what he said. And it's not a million letters strung out. Well, that one guy says maybe, yeah, maybe it is, whatever, I don't care. It's these 22 letters. That's what he said. You learn these 22 letters, wrap your heart around it. Have them inside your heart from within, and then start there. Okay, so that's like what's behind. One more thing, let me make mention of, then we're at an end here, is Isaiah 29, verses 9 to 12, and or 8. No, excuse me, Isaiah 59:21. He says, I will place you as a signet ring, Shin Mem Yod Tav Yod, that's Semitic, like Semitic. Haggai 2:23, maybe that was a signet ring. Maybe I think what Isaiah 59:21 is that the words I have placed in your mouth, I will not remove from your mouth. So I have placed, I have put. Well, Shin Mem is place. My place is Shin Mem Yod, or my name is Shin Mem Yod. Tav Yod is the suffix, means I have, or I will. So you could see just in the word Semitic, I have placed my name in your mouth, and that is the Semitic alphabet, which became all the other languages, at least European languages, and maybe the languages of all the world. Maybe it all spun out from Babel, but at least the Semitic language group, which has the characteristics of phonetic consonants with vowels that are dropped in and tenses of past, present, and or future. That's the Semitic language. And when he says in Haggai, the exact same word, I have placed you as my signet ring. So to realize that he placed his name, essentially that's the word Semitic. It's another proof that to study the origin of the Semitic alphabet. One other thing, Isaiah 29, 9 to 12, and then if you read on 18 to 24, he says, from a place that's Aleph, Pei, Lamed, and Mem, Het, Shin, Kaf, dark, dim, obscure, gloomy, blacked out, obscure, ignorant, illiteracy, dark, secret place, that the deaf will hear the words of a book, the blind will see. How is that even possible? If you're deaf and you can't hear, you can see, you can read these letters and know what they say. If you're blind and you hear these letters, you can know what they say. If you know what these letters say, I think those are clues validating this whole thing. And then in Jeremiah 23, 18 to 22, where he twice mentions Ahmad Basodi, the evident, and then the foundation, which is not so evident. And he talks about the hearing and having a reverence for his word. See, the more you take this as a premise to study the language and to realize what he said is more than just what he said. It's what he said. And that's what exists. And I, for all my years up until I bumped into regarding this, never had the slightest clue to think about it, to study it, to learn it, to give it a. And I remember the thought occurred to me back when I made this chart. You need to become an expert. You need to become world class on this matter. It's like, how do you do that? It didn't even exist. Well, now it exists. That was just a personal, where'd it come from? Thing that ran through my head. Okay, we're here at the end of the introduction here. So we're going to start getting into, how it's formatted and what's going on from top to bottom. Might take a few weeks, a couple months maybe. We'll see. Just so you know, one last point. On the full lunar calendar last Wednesday, a couple days ago, was Yom Kippur. And the interesting thing is, I'm not sure if I mentioned this, maybe I did, but I'll reiterate. When Solomon was praying that great prayer in 1 Kings and in 1 Chronicles, he then had a week and then another week of Sukkot and then Shemini Atzeret, and then he sent everybody home. But Yom Kippur would have been right in the middle of that week. And if you read that prayer, it's all about forgiveness. The word Kippur means forgiveness. And you could say, well, what are you supposed to do on Yom Kippur? Well, what did Yahuwah say? So I was talking to somebody who said, well, do you fast or not fast? It's like, wouldn't answer the question. What did Yahweh say to do? He said, I noon, hey, answer, reply, respond. Contemplate forgiveness. Forgive everybody around you that you might have a grievance on. Ask for forgiveness if you've offended somebody. Consider his forgiveness, personally, collectively. Thank you, Yahusha, for your forgiveness, for what you did to forgive us. Forgive us, Yahuwah. We've offended you, our ancestors and we ourselves. Forgive us and establish us as your people that you can be happy about in our day. Now, Atah, Mimakomka, like that song says. Thank you, Amen. Bless us each as we celebrate your Moedim this season, this autumn, as you said, coming up upon us even this week. Amen.